$1 billion. That's what we're talking about today. If you are a caregiver, then you are contributing to the $1 billion of unpaid family caregivers who contribute to our economy. Thank you so much, Rita, for being with us today. You have been entrenched in caregiving work for how many years now?
Gosh, almost 19 years now professionally.
Professionally, and then personally, you have your own journey as well.
Absolutely. The two are really intertwined. I started caregiving for my grandmother and then my mother, and then flowed right into doing it professionally. So, all in all, it's been over 20 years now.
What got you really motivated to focus so much on this work?
Honestly, it was the experience that I had as a caregiver. I found myself frustrated, not with the care or the responsibility of the care, but in trying to navigate the broken systems that we
Mhm,
have, the
mhm.
healthcare system, the long term care system. And I found myself just really falling when I'm trying to navigate that. And it took away from the time that I had to really be that daughter for my mother, that granddaughter for my grandmother, and really even being present when I was balancing my children as well. And so I was, really became committed to
Mhm.
figuring out what are some solutions that can better support caregivers so that they're not having to trip over themselves and trip over these barriers and obstacles that they're facing when they're trying to provide this care.
Absolutely. And what have you learned? I mean, I know AARP just recently released the Valuing the Invaluable report, and there's just so much research, so much good information in there about the contribution of caregivers, what they go through. But tell us a little bit about the report and what you learned.
AARP earlier this year released Valuing the Invaluable. And what we learned is that family caregivers are contributing unpaid care in the total economic value of $1 trillion. One
Trillion.
trillion,
I think
yes.
I said billion. It's a trillion. Wow.
It's $1 trillion. And that number, we've been doing this report for many years now, and that number just consistently goes up. And when people think or hear $1 trillion, it's really difficult to even think about or put in place what does that actually mean for that everyday caregiver. I think we came up with some different ways to look at it. One of the figures that jumps out for me is that that number is equivalent to 24 million full-time workers that are
Wow.
earning $20 an hour.
Wow.
And so we hear so often from family caregivers that they feel invisible, that they think that they're alone, they feel they're alone. When you see numbers like that, it is really
Mhm.
evident that they are not alone in providing this highly challenging, oftentimes, care.
And that's, when you stop to think about if they weren't doing it, if they chose not to do that work, they do it out of love, they do it out of compassion. They do it because they care. But if they chose not to and they had to institutionalize their loved ones instead, can you imagine what that would do to our economy and to our systems?
Absolutely. I do think, again, that these figures that we're sharing really show that family caregiving isn't this side issue, that it just happens. It's something that individuals, family members, friends, neighbors are really working each and every day to provide this highly complex, oftentimes, care for individuals.
Absolutely. I remember a report that was done by the Kellogg Foundation a number of years ago that actually showed that for every dollar in Michigan that the state spends to send someone to a long-term care facility or some type of institution, they could literally save $2 if they provided more money for home and community-based services. So, here we have a loved one providing care to their person in their family or their loved one, and they're saving the state money, but they're not in Michigan anyway. They're not getting any kind of recognition for that. They're not getting any kind of a tax credit for that. And I know that nationally, ARP is working really hard to make certain that changes.
Absolutely. And I think, Paula, you're speaking to an issue that hits many, many caregivers. It's that financial hit. that they take. We did a research report called Caregiving in the US. We released that last year, and we did that along with the National Alliance for Caregiving. And we found that so many family caregivers are struggling from that financial perspective. They have financial strain, negative consequences on their own finances. So, as you said, these family members are saving money to a tune of $1 trillion, right? And what we're seeing is that many of these family caregivers can't afford to contribute to their retirement. They can't afford to save. They're not paying credit card bills. Many of them are sacrificing paying for their own food and medication so that they can financially offer support to those they're caring for. So this is an issue that impacts millions of individuals.
What's the average out-of-pocket cost that caregivers spend? I know for dementia it goes up if it's, there's a dementia diagnosis, but it was around 7,000 something per.
Yes, it's over $7,200, and we're very excited. We will have new research on that, a new estimated amount coming out in the fall. But that number is $7,200 of out of pocket. Things that family members, when you go into family caregiving, when we're talking to family caregivers, I experienced it myself as a caregiver. You don't necessarily think about the financial impact or the
Right,
financial consequence. You
right,
just go in knowing
right,
that somebody needs support, and you're going to do what you're going to do to make sure they get that
right.
support. But what we're really recognizing is that it's coming at a detriment to the caregiver themselves. And that is something that AARP is working on both at the state level and the national level. Things such as caregiver tax credits that will reimburse, put money back in the pocket of many of these caregivers that are paying for incontinence supplies and many other things out of pocket, as well as looking at paid leave. We
Mhm.
have 13 states in DC right now that have paid leave, but this is something that we know is very critical. Again, these individuals are providing this care, they're taking time off of work, and too many individuals don't have the opportunity to recoup or get paid for that they're off of work.
So you're talk to us a little bit more about the paid leave.
Sure. So, many family caregivers take time off of work at a cost to themselves because they're not getting paid for those hours that they're off of work. We know that 13 states and DC do have paid family leave, a version of that allows individuals to take that time off of work and receive some form of their salary back. And these types of policies are critical to really allow individuals to provide the care they want to provide, but doing it so that it doesn't come at a cost, a sacrifice to them, at least economically.
And that's excellent to be able to share that with folks because there's an impact to businesses as well. Everyone thinks it's someone else's challenge or responsibility, but time off, lost productivity is huge for businesses. I know that if someone has to take their loved one to a doctor's appointment or take time off to take them, to go and check on them. So having that paid caregiving leave is a competitive advantage for any business trying to attract employees, trying to retain their workforce. At least that's what we're sharing here and seeing here in Michigan is they want to retain the workforce that they have. And so you need a competitive advantage. And I'm so happy that AARP does that as well in terms of giving its employees, was it 80 hours or
Of 48 hours.
48 hours of family caregiving time off so they don't have to take that vacation time. What are you seeing that the majority? I was on a radio show the other week, and someone asked me, "How was that money being spent? That $7,200. What are some of the expenses? I know you mentioned incontinence and some of that, but transportation. What else? What other things are they spending out of pocket money on?"
Sure. The family members are coming out of pocket for so many things. Sometimes it's to supplement housing and other bills that family members may have. We also see them paying for medications, for groceries. You mentioned transportation costs, things such as transportation costs, as well as home health. and
Mhm.
home aides. We see that family members are increasingly providing that care in the home, that individuals, as we talked about, are receiving care in the home and are able to live at home more independently because of family caregivers. But that comes oftentimes at a financial cost. If you have someone coming in to spend time with mom or help around the home, or you have someone that is providing home health aid to a grandparent. Most of the time, these dollars are coming out of pocket from the family caregiver. And we know from recent research that those costs of long term care in the home and in a facility are skyrocketing as well.
What would you, people listening to this television broadcast, what would you suggest they do to help support and or just to find support if they are a caregiver?
Absolutely. And that is one of the hardest things where a family caregiver can be asking for help, can be recognizing that they need more supports. And unfortunately, it's not always easy to find.
Mhm.
What I recommend is ensuring that you reach out to family members and friends if they are present to just talk about and name some of the things that you need support with. I also think that it's important to bring your healthcare team, whether it's your own healthcare provider saying, look, I'm under this stress because of what I am doing and I need to take better care of myself and I
Mhm.
need help doing that. Or I shouldn't say and if you are talking to the healthcare professional of the person you're caring for to say, these are the things that I need support with. We know that family caregivers are being asked to do things like giving insulin shots, preparing special diets, all of these things, and they're being asked to do it without training. So, again, asking for those supports. We also know that many communities have resources, faith based communities. So,
Mhm.
talking to that faith based leader in your congregation to be able to say, I'm struggling, I need additional help in this way. Also, AARP across the country and states across the country works with the United Way. We partnered with the United Way so caregivers can call their 211 number and be able to get resources and supports in that way. So there are a number of opportunities and ways to get support. There needs to be more support. I
Mhm.
think one very important group that I did not name is your employer. While it can be challenging in the workplace to admit that you're a caregiver for an older adult, unfortunately, it is that way. I think many more employers are beginning to recognize that and do a better job with their benefits, talking to your manager if that is an option and you feel comfortable, and just naming the things that you need help and support with.
That, that's such wise advice because people think that, like you said, think they're going through this alone, and they are not. How many unpaid family caregivers did we estimate there are? There are those who don't even report that they don't even know they're a caregiver, and
No,
they are.
absolutely. Yes. And, there are over 59 million
Mhm.
that are caring for individuals. And it is a struggle. And you're not alone.
Absolutely. And so just seeking help because you can't, and my father used to always say, you can't be good to anyone else if you're not good to yourself. So just seeking help. You went through this journey on your own. So what kinds of things did you do to make certain that you took care of yourself?
That idea of self care is so important. And I think it's a difficult one because a lot of times people just say, you need to take care of yourself. Thank you.
Yes.
I know I need to take care of myself. What do I do? Sometimes it's as simple, and I say simple because it can be challenging. One of the things that I used to do because I was caring for my mom and my kids and I was working full time is
Mm.
on my drive home, when I got into my driveway, I sat still for 10 minutes. I didn't go into the house. I took deep breaths. And I really tried to center myself.
Mhm.
I also found that, and this was especially challenging with younger children, but trying to get rest in the way that
Yes.
you can really get rest.
Mhm.
Sleep is something that we take for granted. And I
Mhm.
know if you're dealing with someone that is living with dementia and sundowning, or you have a newborn and you're being awakened, but finding those spots to be able to find that rest. And there's also respite programs that are out there. So really, again, taking a leap and asking for help and
Mhm.
naming what that help is that you need.
I love it. I love it. You have been doing. Tell us a little bit about your background. I know you are a premier researcher, but how did you choose this line of work? What's your background?
I fell into this work actually. After caring for my grandmother, I joined AARP knowing that I wanted to do more working with older adults. And for me, it's research, but it's more about connecting policy and research to practice because I feel that so much of the work individuals do in each of those groups is siloed, and what happens is that the person gets lost in the middle of that. And
Yes.
so, my joy, my passion comes from centering that person, that individual, that older adult, and their caregiver, and making sure that these different groups, research, policy, and practice are connected so that those individuals really truly can live their best lives.
It's one of the things I just love so much about the work that you do, and I was sharing this earlier, is that it really is every day. It represents and reflects everyday people. You can read the whole study and valuing the invaluable. You can go to the website, I hope, and get it there. There's website on the page. Is it on the web page already or not yet?
Yes, no, it is
Yeah.
definitely on the website.
Okay, so the website, there it is on the screen. You can go to the website and look at that, look at the entire study. But so appreciate everything that you've done in your years and years of research. What's the one thing that really just stands out? And as we begin to close this out, what's the one thing that really stands out that you learned in your
You
research?
know, the thing that stands out for me is the complex care that family caregivers are providing every day. Because again, I think we take for granted what family caregivers are doing.
Mhm.
And our research in Home Alone, it was a Home Alone study, and it
Yes.
showed that 50% of family caregivers were doing these really challenging, complex tasks. And
Mhm.
it resonated with me personally because of things I had to do with my mom and for my mom. And we didn't get the help. Caregivers said, I'm not getting that training. I'm not getting that support they needed. And so that work was really seminal in adding, when
Mhm.
we think about paying bills or we think about helping someone in and out of the bathroom, we weren't thinking about some of these other increasingly complex tasks. And so that research was really seminal in recognizing that caregivers are doing so much and need that support.
In so many ways, it speaks to who we are as people in America. It speaks to, that folks do care and that that family still matters and that friends and loved ones still matters because it doesn't have to be a family member that you're caring
That's
for. It could
right.
be a friend or anyone. It speaks volumes about who we are as Americans. But on the other hand, it also speaks how much change we need for our policies and our procedures in order to support this whole village of family caregivers throughout the entire country. And your research and the work you've done hopefully will help elevate that message to policymakers, to elected officials, and those listening to the program. You can do something too. You can write letters, right? Rita, they can write letters to their members of Congress. They can write letters to their state representatives and elected officials. We need to support each other that way as well, right, Rita?
Absolutely. And I think to add to all of that, Paula, is making sure that they tell their stories, that these
Exactly.
legislators, these employers, the general public, they need to hear from caregivers
Yes.
their stories. And whether it's the challenges or also the joy, just really recognizing and being able to share what they're doing so that they can be seen and heard.
One of the things Senator Stabenow said to us before she retired from the U.S. Senate was there's nothing more powerful than telling your own story. That resonates more than
Right.
anything else. So thank you to those who are listening. And remember that if you've got a story to share, please, please share your story. You can go to the website. We collect stories both nationally and at the state level as well to share your caregiving story. We even have a caregiving map where caregivers are all over the state of Michigan, or you can populate that map and share your story. So Rita, thank you for what you do, not only the work that you do, but the passion and the heart that you put behind that work. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Paula, for everything you do as well. And thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for watching Real Possibilities. Everyone has a need for alternative transportation at some point in time in their life. Krista, thank you for being here today to tell us about how your transportation needs have changed.
Thank you for having me. So I use CATA, Paratransit, SpecTran. It is amazing. They come to my house. I can call and schedule a ride, or I can use the SpecTran app and schedule a ride right while I'm at home without having to call and talk to anybody. I can do it anytime between the hours of 8 and 4, a.m. and p.m. And they will take me anywhere I have to go. $2.50 each way.
Wow.
And it's amazing. Like, I go every day, I'm on the bus, and I go all over the place. Sometimes other people are on the bus also, which makes it even, for me, it makes it better because then I get to see other places and it makes it somewhere else that I want to go. And like, I'm always on the bus, I'm always going somewhere. If I didn't have SpecTran, I would be probably home all the time. Even though I have a power chair, it can only go so far, whereas the bus can take me anywhere. I can be in Okemos this morning and in East Lansing tonight. Their hours, they will pick you up anywhere between like 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. And it's just amazing. It's amazing.
And particularly older adults, there's something called social isolation. So if you don't get out and get around other people, you start feeling really depressed and you just have other issues. So being able to have transportation that will take you anywhere,
Anywhere,
right? Anywhere you want to go.
Not just to work, they'll take you to school, they'll take you to church, they'll take you to the grocery store, they'll take you to your friend's house.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's good to know that. Thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tracy Anderson with Impart Alliance at Michigan State University. Today I'm joined by Darlene Brown. Darlene is owner and operator of HCP Homes right here in Lansing. Darlene, tell me a little bit about HCP Homes and what it stands for and what you do day in and day out.
Thank you, Tracy, for having me. Yes, HCP Home stands for Hope, Compassion, and Peace. That is the kind of care that we provide our community and our individuals that live with us. We have a 6-bed, home, and we do everything from activities of daily living, meal preps, laundry, cleaning, and most of all, just keep our individuals safe.
How many direct care workers help provide support in the home? And tell me a little bit about how the operations and really like the day-to-day living happens.
So day to day, we provide a lot of encouragement, inspiration. I'm there primarily as the owner and operator, but I have like 3 staff members.
Okay, and can you tell me a little bit about your experience with Impart Alliance and our training program?
Oh, my experience with Impart Alliance training has been amazing. I love their training curriculum. They cover everything that we need to do with our ongoing training so we can provide better care for our individuals that we take care of.
And why is training so important?
Everyone specifically has different needs, and so being on top of our training encourage us to make sure that we're giving and providing the best care we can.
Absolutely. And having that consistent training, I would imagine, is important, which is one of the resources that Impart Alliance really works to stay on top of to help support direct care workers and folks like you who own agencies and businesses around direct care.
I agree. Yes.
Well, thank you, Darlene. We really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
You or someone you know may have a spouse in long-term care. Do you have to use all of your long-term savings if you have a spouse in long-term care?
I'm glad you asked the question, Paul, because that's the biggest misconception. You know, spouses want to take care of each other. They want to keep them at home. My experience is that, a spouse will kill themselves to keep the other one out of the nursing home.
Right.
And then, of course, when they succeed in killing themselves, exhausting themselves, where does the spouse go? Long-term care. But the other side of it, which is all our life savings are now drained to pay for the long-term care before Medicaid will kick in.
Right.
When Medicaid kicks in, fine, they'll pay for it. but now we have to drain all of our resources that we spent decades building up. That is not true. Categorically not true. We have great success. We say about 90%. If I've got a married, it's closer to 99%, but so let's say 90% of family resources can be preserved for the community spouse, the at-home spouse. It's not the case that you have to go broke. It's not the case that you have to lose your life savings. In fact, it's so important to retain your life savings, not just for the next generation, although we love them too, but more importantly for your spouse. You want your spouse to get more than one shower a week? You have to pay for it. You want them to have their own room? You have to pay for it. You want their laundry to be done and they actually get back the clothes? You have to pay for it. It's extra. But if you're down to the poverty level, which is what Medicaid requires, you're not going to be able to afford any of that. But if we plan ahead, life savings are intact, you can provide the highest level of care for your spouse.
Oh, that's really good information. Thank you for that. A lot of misperceptions around that. Thank you, David.
Terrible, yeah. Thank you, Paul.
As we think about retirement, sometimes you don't think about the healthcare component. Henry, why is healthcare so important to our retirement plan?
Well, I think in general, it's because it's unpredictable. Not something you can plan for the day it happens. It's enacted upon you, and then the costs are unpredictable.
And that could really wipe out your savings.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you plan for that?
I think it's knowing that that is, for all retirees, the number one expense in retirement. So making sure you have a plan, you understand that it's unpredictable in nature. So when the moment comes, what's your plan to go attack that expense and make sure it doesn't derail the remainder of your retirement?
So you need an expense for daily living, you need or some dollars for daily living, some steady income, and then you also need a separate plan for health care or unforeseen circumstances.
Yeah, in a perfect world, you've isolated assets for the healthcare component. Now, not everybody can do that, but knowing going into retirement that that's the number one expense, lessens the shock when it happens.
Is there an age where it's too late to do that?
I don't think so.
Okay. And what does that look like when you isolate dollars, particularly specifically for healthcare?
Well, I think what it really means is if you think about the total of your portfolio, you're not consuming that for the everyday expense that you already referred to for our living expense, knowing, hey, we better keep some reserves in the tank, if you will, for unforecasted, unpredictable, or unknown healthcare expenses.
So emergency fund, you should have that throughout your entire life, right?
Absolutely.
Flat tires or car problems or roof or whatever, it's similar to that.
It only gets more expensive the older we get, right?
Yeah, unfortunately. Thanks so much for being here, Henry. Appreciate that advice.
Thank you.
AARP is your trusted friend and fierce defender. Our volunteers are out and about across the state, making a difference, helping their neighbors, supporting caregivers, fighting to protect Social Security, and so much more. If you'd like to join our family of volunteers, we'd love to have you. Visit our website. A lot of good information that was shared today. Make certain that you take notes, that you share it with your friends and your family. And thanks for watching Real Possibilities.